Oh, you got it?
Oh yeah.
Now let me get another one real quick. Alright, so I'm going to walk you through the basics of how I target Lake Allatoona and how I catch so many fish there. So, the first thing you got to think, you got to envision underwater drops. I know that's hard to believe. A lot of people want to cast at the bank. They want to cast at trees, cast at the rocks they can see up on the bank. But one thing you got to understand about them is they are deep water fish. They want to be out 20 plus feet deep almost all the time. There are exceptions, but generally they want to be out deep. They want to be close to a drop. They want to have some kind of hard structure around. Generally some boulders, some rocks, some brush piles, of course, anything. And generally those things are going to be located close to contour breaks, real steep drops, close to flats. So in this image, you can see this is a perfect prime area to target spotted bass. There's about 6 areas I can see in this image that they could set up and that you can catch fish off of. So you're looking for drops, you're looking for those contour lines. If you don't have lake maps, if you don't have navionics, you are completely missing out because they will guide you to where these fish are. So before I even make a cast, I'm going to idle through the area to check to see what's going on, if there's any bait around, if there's any fish around. So this is how I would come in this area and how I would check it out. And you'll see in just a few seconds the areas that I normally and generally will mark fish on. I always will drop waypoints. A lot of times I'll come back through and delete them if they're not structure oriented, if they're not on any boulders, if they're just sitting on the drop somewhere. It's not something you want to get glued to because these fish are roaming around almost all the time just chasing balls of shad. That's all they care about. It doesn't matter if you caught them there 12 hours ago. If there's no bait there, they're not going to be there. They're going to be wherever that is. After I idle through and identify certain areas fish are setting up on, I'm going to start back where I first saw some fish because of disturbance, of course, of going over them. So I'm going to start, if I marked, in this instance, I marked about 6 different groups, real solid groups of fish. There was a couple other things, brush piles, other things I might have marked. But I'm going to focus on the best areas where I saw the most bait and fish right there together. So I'm going to work those areas depending on where the fish are in the water column. Today there was some pushed up real shallow, pushing the bait up on to the flats, the bluer areas in this image. And I also caught some out in 30, 40 foot deep off of the drops just in the middle of the channel. I was about to grab a Dorito and I felt like, that feels like a fish. Yeah. How do you?
Oh my god. Oh, he came back for it. Yeah, sorry, that's a good one. Oh, that's a good one.
Drag good? Oh yeah. Hoping you had a buddy. Oh yes, ah. 2 something? 2 something? Go ahead, put him on a scale. Two one. Here's another area I'd focus on. It's a good steep ditch. There's water running through it. That's what that blue line represents, is a creek bed. You've got in the bottom middle a little secondary point coming off. It's just a good area with steep contours, good depth in the center, and a good rocky structure all around it. Again, I would come through idling before I even cast a line, check to see what's going on. Today, this area was absolutely loaded with shad. It had stripers, hybrids, spotted bass, everything mixed in, feeding on them, and it was a good area. A lot of times in areas like this, you'll come through your marked fish as you're seeing here, but they're actually suspended. So it's 50, 60 foot deep, but the fish are only 10 to 20, maybe 30, some of them down in 40 foot. I caught them in an array of depth, and you just got to keep an eye on your fish finder, looking for those shad, looking for those fish feeding on those shad, and see what depth they're at, because it can be anywhere again from 10 foot right below your boat all the way down to 40, 50 foot, even deeper at some points. But these are the areas they'll set up on in an area like this. The baits for this kind of fishing are pretty simple. It all depends on what the fish are doing. Earlier in the day, they were feeding on top real good, so we caught them on flukes. I caught one on an Alabama rig. A lot of times you can catch them on top water. Today, they just weren't having it after the clouds rolled in. So when they're down deeper, number one is a drop shot. Of course, today I threw a spoon a lot just because there was a lot of hybrid stripers, everything mixed in. So I'd say number one, drop shot. Number two, a spoon. That's what I caught most of mine on today. I caught some on a drop shot, but spoon, any kind of minnow bait, swim bait, fluke style bait, anything on a jig head, anything you can drop down and see them, and you're shad imitating baits. I mean, they're just, it's pretty simple. Anything you think that imitates a shad will work, and it's just a matter of getting around them and getting your bait to them, and they'll bite it. You might come on. Oh no. That's basically it. Shad imitating baits and steep drops, and you got a recipe to catch some spotted bass. What's going on now? I hope you learned something, and I hope it helps you catch some more fish next time you're out on the water. Just remember, steep drops and shad imitating baits.